This is JT, and I'm going to walk you guys through bodyweight squats. One of the key differences between a full range of motion in a bodyweight squat and what you're doing under a loaded squat is going to be maintaining a neutral spine all the time when you're under a load. When you're doing bodyweight work, and if you look at a pistol squat, it's essentially impossible to perform without some lumbar flexion. And studies have shown that lumbar flexion not under a load is perfectly fine. There's no increased chance of injury versus lumbar flexion under a load. So when you're bodyweight strength training, don't be afraid of a little bit of lumbar flexion. And for sports like jiu-jitsu, gymnastics, wrestling, lumbar flexion is a part of the sport. So it's not inherently a bad thing. A lot of times exercises get a bad rap, hanging leg raises and things like that because of lumbar flexion. But when it's not under a load, it's perfectly safe. So with that being said, what you're gonna wanna shoot for is glutes to heels in your bodyweight squats. So feet are gonna be just shoulder width or a little bit wider. You're gonna look straight ahead, keep your shoulders tracking over the heels. Maintain tension in the core, in the glutes, and the hamstrings. And maintaining tension in your core is gonna help with that lumbar flexion, just like in a hollow body position. So I'm gonna perform one for you, and it's gonna look like this. Spine is neutral until you get very close to the bottom. Okay, then down at the bottom, you're gonna have that little bit of lumbar flexion. This is like a toddler squat. If you look at how toddlers are able to squat effortlessly, partially because they have a large head, and the large head helps them with balance. But also they have great mobility because they haven't had desk patrol for decades, like most of us have. So you should be able to hold this position at the bottom. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. If you cannot hold this, you have mobility issues that you need to address, and I'll help you go through those. Most common causes are going to be ankle mobility issues and hip mobility issues. There's 4 stretches that I like to do to help address those things, and so I'll go through those with you now. For your ankles, the first stretch that I like to do would be, this leg is at a 90-degree angle. The opposing leg will be 90 degrees to this leg. What you're going to do from here is make sure your hips are square, and you're going to lean straight forward. You're going to take your chest atop the knee to help give you a little bit of pressure. Then you're gonna take your bicep on the side of the knee to help keep the knee tracking directly over the toes. And you're just going to reach forward, keeping your heel firmly planted. You're just gonna reach forward. This is gonna help with the Achilles. And you're probably gonna hold that for 30 seconds to 1 minute, depending how tight you are, how tight your Achilles is, how your dorsiflexion is. So you're gonna hold that. This is going to give you an idea of what it looks like from the other side. Heel firmly planted, reaching straight forward, keeping knee tracking directly over the toes. Okay, now, for ankles, similar to downward dog, you're going to start with your toes curled under, and you're going to walk back up. Okay, you're gonna walk back up, and that's gonna give you a very powerful stretch all along the top here. Between those two, you should have good forward and backward ankle mobility. It just may take some time to develop. Lateral mobility, you're gonna start 90 degrees, back leg's gonna be about 45, toes straight. You're gonna take the front leg and walk it over to the midline of your body and keep your hips square. This is actually going to help with glute medius, glute maximus, piriformis, IT band. This is really going to get everything loosened up in the hips. From here, you're just going to take your ankle to the side, put your hands down, and then you're going to sink in to the stretch. Take your hips and tuck the hip under, a little bit of posterior pelvic tilt, and that's really going to get your hip flexor stretched out. Then you're going to hold that for however long is comfortable for you. 30 seconds to a minute's ideal. Show you from the other side. 90 degrees, 45 degrees, toes straight. Walk your foot over to the midline of the body. Square your hips. And then you can see you tuck your hips under. And that's what's really going to stretch out your quads, stretch out your hip flexor. Okay, from there, if you have tight adductors. A butterfly stretch you've probably seen, but a lot of people do it incorrectly because what they do is they press down with their elbows or with their hands. And what you want to do is you want to allow your own musculature to pull the knees or press the knees down like this. Okay, so get them down as low to the floor as you can on your own without assisting. Then you're going to lean forward and you're just going to slowly stretch that out. Again, 30 seconds to a minute if you can. Just those few stretches should help open up the hips, should help with ankle mobility. There's dozens of other stretches you can do.